Greetings. I am Metatron, Lord of Light. I embrace each of you in light, in love. Dear ones, I know each of you, far more than you may realize. And we savor these moments we share. And now another precious moment brings us together, uniting thoughts within the matrix of the unified field. Combining geometric thought patterns with desire, with awareness, and so do all things come together in the same way. For all thoughts, all things, all beings are representations of light, of consciousness, of manifestation, of all that ever was or ever will be. Dear humans, the universe, the cosmos is perfection itself, regardless of any dimensional interpretation or perception of it. In a quantum sense, all things in the crystalline unified field act precisely, perfectly according to their nature, their architectural integrity. Yet some are created at higher frequencies, at higher vibratory resonance than others. And so with these words, we begin this most interesting discussion. Question to Archangel Metatron. According to one modern Mayan calendar interpreter, we are in the midst of an acceleration of consciousness like no other. In fact, the researcher says that the rate of consciousness will speed up by a factor of 20 in 2011, so a shift in consciousness that took a whole year from 1999 until now will make only 20 days. This factor of 20 will be in full potential from March 9 to October 28, 2011. If this is so, what does it mean exactly? Archangel Metatron. So to begin this discussion, we will say that the potential for increased consciousness is indeed taking place as a preset quickening of the ascension. However, the rate of shift varies with each individual, and as such a fixed factor of the acceleration cannot truly be given per se. Before we comment further on the acceleration of consciousness, we wish to add an interesting point to the conversation. The incredible calendar that you humans currently refer to as Mayan was not developed nor originally written by the Society of Mayans in the manner that you currently attribute. Indeed, it predated the Mayans by more than 18,000 years. It was originally developed by the enlightened Atlanteans of Poseidon with assistance from the Syrian-Pleiadian alliance, and stored in crystalline technology, termed the crystal skulls. Even your more creative anthropologist considers the earliest Mayan society only began around 2000 BC. We assure you the calendar was in place and effect, in a much more expansive format, long before the Mayan society came into existence. What you now refer to as the Mayan calendar is but a small remnant of what pre-existed the Mayans. You see, the areas inhabited by the predecessors of the Mayans in the Yucatan area of Mexico and Guatemala was connected by a land bridge to the Atlantean island of Poseidon before the quakes and waters of the final deluge of Atlantis submerged it. Highly technically advanced cultures from Atlantis habited Central America and Egypt long before the final demise of Atlantis. The Central American, South America OG and Egyptian colonies and cultures emerged from and were one with the highly spiritual Atlanteans of the Law of One for many millennia before the destruction of Atlantis. These societies contained within them an elite and highly advanced group of what may be termed scientist priests. The Atla-Ra. These savants were highly adept at the science of mind over matter. These masters operated through mental physics and operated in full consciousness and finesse of multidimensionality. So while the untrained masses of humanity in the era of Atlantis lacked such skills, and indeed utilized land bridges and other less advanced forms of transport to and from the colonies of Atlantis, OG, Yucatan and Egypt, the inner circle of scientist priests had the means to etherically bilocate and physically manifest, not just on the physical realms of the earth, but also universally and galactically. These savants of the Atla-Ra interacted with the extraterrestrials of the Pleiadian Syrian alliance, and were indeed, the original source of the cyclic calendar you presently term Mayan. Small enclaves of these master scientist priests endured for millennia after the deluge and retained the knowledge of the calendar as well as the supervision of the construction of the various pyramids with assistance from the extraterrestrials referenced. Yet the savant priests of the Maya did not represent the society of the Mayans as a whole. That is precisely why the Mayans are an enigma to you today. Portions of the accomplishments attributed to them reveal great technical advancement, and yet the society as a whole was camstrel and denigrated into unseemly ceremony involving human sacrifice and other aberrations under skewed dictatorships. Is it then quite logical to understand that the calendar pre-existed the Mayan society? So it follows then that the scientist priests of Og, Yucatan, Egypt and other forgotten cultures before and after them, understood both the science of mental physics and had great knowledge of astronomy and dimensional cycles. Only those of adept and austere initiate traditions and societies knew this, although very little evidence of any significance remains today. And what does remain is not recognized or as yet understood. Understanding the science of mental physics and having the ability to utilize such knowledge is what defines the gap between what your present technologies and academics know and what your advanced societies of the past knew. The influence of precise thought upon matter is not yet understood by humanity. It is a forgotten science. The scientist priests knew the art of physical dematerialization and remanifestation. This then, not only in terms of travel through by location, but of physical matter. That is indeed how the greatest of the pyramids were constructed, and remains a mystery to you today. The Atla-Ra and their descendants had the ability to mentally engineer the science of 3D physics by shifting matter from the third dimension into fields of what may be termed anti-gravity, to dematerialize and reform, and remanifest as substance without density. They were able under certain circumstances to alter their reality and their dimension. These scientist priest adepts used highly concentrated thought to reform matter into different spectrums. They understood that matter exists in spectrum waves just as light does, and had the ability to transform into and out of different wave oscillations. Accordingly, could atomic matter be morphed to weightless vibratory states, and not only to have semi-congealed mass without density, but to tangentially influence the density of both matter and its antimatter spectrum, truly as a spectrum of the one rather than an opposite or parallel? For matter and antimatter are part of one cycle within an integral spectrum in multidimensionality. The importance of this that I relate is that neither the mass populations of the Olmec, Aztec, Mayan, nor the of the Mesoamerican populace retained the mastery that certain aspects of their culture exhibited. Our point is that the Atla-Ra developed the calendar, and segments of the Mayans retained that knowledge and recreated records and texts to preserve it. But just as in Atlantis, the scientist priests, while respected, were not the governing body nor the decision-makers of how the society as a whole developed. Question to Archangel Metatron: is this the reason why the changes seems to come not only faster and faster but with more intensity? Archangel Metatron: yes. So now to return to your question and topic of factors of consciousness increase. We will state that it is the increase in frequential resonance that is escalating the potential of each individual to shift upward into great and greater conscious awareness. The ascension is underpinned and indeed defined by the dimensional expansion of the earth to include the crystalline realms. The ascension is characterized by the new affording of life force consciousness units, termed by your ancients as Akash or adamantine essence, that are in themselves the potent light particulate of reality manifestation. In our terms, consciousness units. The crystalline realm begins at the level of the fifth dimension and extends to the 15th dimension in humanity's paradigm of the omni-earth. What has existed for mankind's access prior to the dimensional expansion of the ascension has been a transduced or stepped-down version of CUs in what would be termed electromagnetic energy units that are endowed to function in the physical polarity field and linear space-time aspects of the third dimension. Crystalline consciousness units operate in a much more rapid frequency, and are spurred into creative manifestation of reality through the higher aspect of mind, in the realm you refer to as the subconscious. The terms of consciousness and reality in the 3D paradigm aspect of humanity simply cannot hold, simply cannot contain the vaster resonate context of consciousness units in crystalline dimension. Accordingly, the intensity of energies, of consciousness shift and quickening of time pulse are all attributes of the puissant resonance. So we need to clarify and reassert at this point that the event you refer to as the ascension is in truth, in greater aspect, the expanded availability of 3D humanity to rise into greater dimension, the crystalline dimension, that has for many millennia been unavailable in the denser physicality of humanity. Yet having the expansion of energies that make ascension available, does not mean each individual will immediately utilize the renewed available opportunity. Indeed, the choice to do so remains with humanity on the micro, and is the discrete, singular decision of each person. Ascension is then a personal option, depending on the readiness, the pure intent and indeed the light quotient of the individual. Ascension, dear ones, occurs one heart, one mind at a time. It has always been so, for Earth is a free will, free choice environed by design. Ascension is not a magical stardust that immediately transitions all that it touches. Rather, it is a newly opened frequential doorway that the individual may choose to pass through when ready. Now, we will add that the energetic blend occurring on the planet at this time enhances the opportunity of consciousness to advance through the doorway via a myriad blend of frequential leaps occurring on the Earth. The energy of the planet is indeed changing. A requisite magnificent upshifting and purification is ongoing. It is important to keep in mind that the Mayan calendar, while very accurate in its determination of cycles in your current paradigm, can be analyzed differently by the perspective stance and light quotient of each interpreter. Accordingly, it is more accurate to say that the factor of conscious shift is determined then by the consciousness of the individual, and not any preset numerical factor. It is also tantamount to this discussion to add that certain Mayan texts that were destroyed by the Spanish priests provided information that would have given far more expansive views of the calendar. We will also add that many centuries before the Maya, other texts that were tantamount to the calendar were lost in the ages and passing of linear time. Multidimensionality is not widely considered by current interpretations of the calendar, and that severely narrows and indeed omits the broader understanding that the enlightened scriptors of the information originally held. The aspect of acceleration available within the ascension then is not precisely predisposed to a fixed ratio. Rather, the rate of acceleration is determined by and actuated by the individual's intent and ability to rise into and obtain the procurable expansive energy. The concept of a ninth wave is a contemporary interpretation and is not truly predicted as a preset of the Mayan calendar as established by its Atlantean originators. That does not, however, devalue its importance or validity of its intent. Question to Archangel Metatron. Could you talk about this aspect of acceleration and what it offers humanity? Archangel Metatron. Dimensional reality on the Earth is programmed to appear in a time sequence you perceive as linear. It is, in your computer terminology, a program facilitated by a server, which in this case is the 144 crystalline grid. Through the 144 grid, the subprograms of time are inserted as hologramic realities. There are epochs and eras, entire civilizations that are inserted into the grid server as programs. That is why fully evolved civilizations such as the Mayan can seem to have suddenly sprung up out of nowhere into the vast sea of creation within the flow of the collective unconsciousness. The consciousness grid that enables created realities. Linear time is a functional, purposeful illusion. In truth, all programs are running simultaneously. Therefore, on the level of the Oversoul, you are experiencing many civilizations, and all lifetimes at the same time in the unified field of the crystalline multiverse. An aspect of the ascension is the apixial centering of all time, and in the greater overview, the time acceleration being experienced on the planet at this time is because an aperture in the hologram programs of simultaneous time is allowing all holograms to complete themselves in this cycle, as such that you term light is accelerating, and it affects every aspect of your current experience. Question to Metatron: how does it affect time, and will time disappear? Archangel Metatron: we will say that time as you know it is indeed accelerating. Time and space are different aspects of the same energy. Both are aspects of light, and the speed of light around your planet is accelerating. Indeed, your Earth is reformulating. But masters, it is not merely the pulse flash of time sequencing that is increasing. Indeed, it is humanity that is increasing in vibration. Dear ones, as we have told you, the world remakes itself now as the inertia of time chronology speeds past more quickly today than it did yesterday in linear sequence. Accordingly, will 2011 and 2012 continue to impel the expedition of light acceleration and your lucid interpretation of consciousness. With this surge, your cognitive expression of life will in kind shift into higher tempo. You see, the speed of light has increased. Although it cannot be accurately measured by humanity at your current level of academic knowledge, yet as a result, it is evident to many of you that all is quickening. Time is accelerating as the ascension draws nigh. Your moments, hours and days flash by much quicker. So as time reshapes itself, it will also reshape the experience of mankind, of visible and invisible forces of nature, and that of the face of the earth itself. Linear time is conceptual within duality, and is the abstraction therein containing relevance to the expansion and contraction of the duality polarity aspects of the third dimension to the crystalline dimensions beginning at the level of the fifth dimension. So to be clear, you must understand that each dimension above the third, beginning at the fifth, then has its own unique laws of physics and own succinct time pulse. Light becomes crystalline coherent light at the level of the fifth dimension, and increases in velocity and frequency in each higher dimension. In time, time disappears. So time as it is currently measured in 3D is out of sync with the relevant pulse of time flash. Indeed, it is the physics, the curvature of space-time by which time pulse expands or contracts with exact ratio to the relevance of quanta of light present within the space quadrant measured. So indeed the pulse of time is increasing as the Earth reshapes itself in the ascending energies. The acceleration of the time pulse you are now receiving results in the increased velocity of light. Many other factors play a role in this. So we tell you that when a greater quanta of coherent light is present, time pulse flash sequence can and does accelerate, either forward or backward, from your linear perspective. It is why many of you feel there are less hours in the day, and you cannot seem to accomplish the same number of tasks within the measures of your chronology. We will tell you that the time flash aspect is increased by approximately 25%, and your ability to adjust to that has not equalized. Therefore it seems to you that time passes more quickly relative to what humanity experienced 3 decades ago. Yet that is an understandable misconception. In a real aspect, the acceleration of time pulse lessens the arc swing of duality. The integral result of this is a more compacted experience, one that is perceived in duality as more consolidated and seamless, and accordingly more refined and less abrupt. The crystalline grid is transforming light via quickening sequences of space and time as it appears in your dimension, and indeed affecting the physical body of the Earth. This transformation of special time results in an increase in the spinning of the Earth's core. This is accomplished by transducing light waves. The crystalline core of the Earth is spinning faster, and the ratio of the inner spin to the axial tilt of the Earth determines the time movement in linear Earth. It is indeed appropriate to say that the clocks and chronometers of the Earth no longer accurately measure the pulse of time as received from the flashing pulse of reality sequence as perceived by the brain. The settings you perceive in your physical Earth in linear time, the aspects of life as you humans generally apprehend it, are proposed illusions. This proposed illusion is paraphrased and deciphered by the brain according to fixed signals received initially by the mind, again, by the transduction of the speed of light. It is important to understand that the brain is quite different from the mind. The human brain is a physicalized aspect of mind. The brain occupies physical matter and space. It interprets and exists in time. The mind does not. The mind takes up no space. It does not have its core existence within linear time. The reality of the inner universe does not occupy material space, nor does it have its intrinsic essence in linear time. Your illusion physical reality, by contrast, indeed does takes up space and has an existence slotted within time, but it is not the true reality that your divine mind, your soul exists in, and its perceptions are determined by cosmic forces that are shifting. As we have said, time and space are aspects of the same mechanism. Space, in a manner of speaking, is congealed time held in a matrixial kinetic format within duality that allows for the separation and program of the proposed programmed illusion of sequential time metrics. Accordingly, and within this context, time is the inverse of space. In dynamic free flow, both occur though the harmonic flash of consciousness units, through the mechanisms of the inward and outward pulse of matter to antimatter via black holes and white holes. The inward-outward harmonic flash is constantly occurring between matter and antimatter. That you refer to as antimatter composes the great majority of the cosmos, not only the point in which space and time merge into a homogeneous foam. It is also the rate of consciousness unit perception that strobes attention of awareness into each simultaneous lifetime. This occurs at a magical rate, which is a slight variation of what you term the Planck number, occurring precisely at 10 to the power of 43 of 1 second. At this point time and space merge and become nonlinear, and the torus aspect comes into play. Space is inversed, turned back upon itself, and time units float in a nonlinear discontinuous quantumized pool of what you term past, present and future. The space-time continuum dissolves, in a manner of speaking, and become conscious energy units that are reformed into matter and antimatter, as they are pulled in and projected out in the harmonic flash via black holes and white holes respectively. All versions of the omni-Earth coexist above the linear programming, but this axiom of truth is initially very difficult for you humans to perceive or truly completely comprehend from the stance of the third dimension. That is because the 3D density aspect of the human physical structure and duality manifestation operates within and as a result of the linear time program that enables the Earth plane experience. You are therefore pre-indoctrinated to linear perception in Earth plane existence. This linear perception program determines to a great extent the normal resonance patterns for the kinds of experiential probabilities that mankind selects, projects and perceives while growing into greater consciousness from the base point of dense physicality. But we tell you that the source reality of which all lifetimes emerge is not written in stone. Thus your experience is truly never predestined. You chose from an assortment of potentials the experiences you want to have. Both the cosmos and all life contained within and without are always being created in the now moment. And although your 3D preconditioning is linear, you not only have the ability to reach beyond physical programming, you also have the ultimate goal of doing so while inhabited by human consciousness. The living physical body operates as an intense focus point for Earth plane experience. The aggregation of consciousness within the physical body on all levels focuses its own myriad network of sensory perception and communication, both on levels of the ordinary and the extraordinary. In terms of the latter, You are therefore constantly perceiving in ways that you do not recognize with the ordinary physical senses. There are vast arrays of colors, sounds, electromagnetic codes, and sensory feelings that you see and apperceive both on the cellular and crystalline level of chakra networks sourced in quantum consciousness that are geometrically and frequentially influencing you. This network is connected in harmonic oscillation to all others like it. But humanity is at this time vastly unaware of these extraordinary levels of interaction that take place between all spectra of bodies, Christo-electromagnetically and materially within biology. This interface occurs in Christo-Americanal light body and is more far-reaching than humanity in mass realize. Yet the physical cells in biology can and do respond to each other, and their activity triggers even higher centers of crystalline light body consciousness that ties into and above linear time, rather into multidimensionality. Comment to Metatron. According to one knowledgeable source, we are not only living the last shift in consciousness, there has been 8 previous ones, but the ultimate shift, the one that has driven evolution for thousands of years, the final Mayan calendar step to 2012, the last galactic wave or underworld, has started on March 9, 2011 and will be completed on October 28, 2011. At that date, the 9th wave will be activated. Question to Archangel Metatron. Is the 9th wave the unity wave? If so, are we asked to really start to co-create unity consciousness? Archangel Metatron. This modern conceptual version, termed the 9th wave, does indeed in itself have the ability to create sufficient group conscious focus to stir greater inertia in the quickening that is already in place as the ascension draws nigh. The 9th wave then is an interpretation that is established with specific valued intents. Now, that you refer to as the 9th wave, is in truth a conceptual and conventional initiative based on an interpretation by a highly evolved soul, and a very credible theorist. We will add that fitted within the interpretation of the writer is the astrological timing of March 9 through October 28, 2011. The concept and the initiative of the 9th wave, however, is a contemporary interpretation and is not truly a preset of the Mayan calendar. Yet that does not diminish its intended validity or value, for indeed it carries a very high vibration. So understand that although it is contemporary, it is a valid insert. But in response to your question, we tell you that the 9th wave is being created in the present, and as a result of the focal belief and group focus, it will benevolently occur. But to be clear, it is the resonant momentum of the ascension itself that is quickening the energies, and without this source, there would be no potential for a 9th wave. It is the critical moving inertia and positive momentum of the planetary centering in the galactic field that is the prime source. As such, there are truly many astrological influences that we will say play the true roles in the ascension, independent of the coining of the 9th wave of consciousness conversion. Indeed, the equinoxes, solstices and eclipses of 2011 and 2012 are the original and true potency sources of the energetic contributions toward the field of unity consciousness. The ongoing foundation of the myriad influences that are establishing the acceleration of the ascension energies are truly the basis of the opportunity for increased consciousness, and these will occur with or without what is termed the 9th wave. However, the conceptual stated intent of the 9th wave, as we have stated, is of intrinsic value, and is capable of gaining momentum and assisting in the establishment of unity consciousness on its own merits, if it garners sufficient participation. We will add that there will be other such momentous concepts conceived between the present and December 21, 2012, and all will find fertile ground within the energetic foundation that is occurring. So whether one chooses to refer to the inertia ongoing as the 9th or 10th wave, or any other selected naming, It is an interpretation that truly is subjective and not truly a part of the Mayan calendar as such. Rather, the ninth wave is an interpretation, and from that perspective has its own benevolent merits that are capable of drawing focus, and accordingly formulate the unity wave that is its appropriate and commendable intent. The ascension is, in geomathematical terms, occurring in base 12. The Atlanteans utilized base 12, as well as other mathematical bases depending on the dimensional application. It is perhaps more accurate to say that the crystalline transition, which is the core essence of the ascension, is occurring in 12 waves, from the January 1, 2001 through the December 12, 2012. Base 12 UC. The expansive Earth of the Ascension has 12 dimensions. 144 crystalline grid is activating in 12 stages through the phenomena of the 12 triple date portals, both then utilizing the base 12. The base 12-wave scenario is frequentially appropriate to the resonance of the Ascension. There are 12 major sun disks on the planet. Each of the 12 carry specific purpose and are receiving new crystalline codes. Each of the 12 primary apparatuses feed 12 satellites, the 12 connecting to the 144 in a complex geosymmetry that is suited to the base 12 of the Earth, and indeed also is the crystalline 144 grid formulated in base 12 mathematics. The Mayans had vigesimal numerical system, which used base 20. Unity consciousness is indeed a noble aspiration, and is very appropriate, but it is not truly specific to or limited to the dates chosen in the ninth wave initiative. What is symbolized by 9 is completion or shift, but that again is in base 10 understanding, and not base 12. Question to Archangel Metatron. Is this ninth wave a period of opportunity to reach the highest quantum state, and is it the basis for a harmonious peace on Earth? Archangel Metatron. It is indeed an opportunity, especially within the stated intent of its contemporary author, and those that are following the concept en masse. But this opportunity is truly valid regardless of the nomenclature or chosen timing. The Ascension is a universal truth, and unity consciousness has been occurring since 2001, and will quicken through 2012. It is a necessary accomplishment. Do you understand? It can be more accurately stated that the 2012 Ascension is the 12th wave of the ascending Earth, and the movements and forward inertia have been quickening as an advent of the harmonic convergence, and the replacement of the magnetic grid by the 12-phase activations of the crystalline grid. The conscious divine energy behind what you term the Mayan calendar is independent of and vastly predates the Maya. It is in its core a potent living energy field that is by no means dependent on what is contained in the calendar or interpreted from the remnants of the calendar. It is far more than what you imagine it to be. It is dynamic and ever expanding. While it is the source energy that allowed the calendar to be composed, that very composition is merely one aspect of this dynamic gestalt. Comment to Metatron. Many have thought that the Mayan calendar was about something that would happen on the singular date, but in fact it is an extraordinary plan from the cosmos that was divided into 9 different levels of consciousness. The Mayans seem to have understood this and left us many indicators. Many of their pyramids, the Pyramid of the Plumed Serpent in Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of the Jaguar in Tikal, and the Temple of Inscriptions in Palenque were all built with 9 stories. Question to Archangel Metatron. It seems that the mother of Mayan science is Pleiadian. Was the Mayan calendar and its explanation of the future inspired by the Pleiadians, or did the ancient ones have enough data and talent in exploring the planets that they were able to put it together without intervention from the Pleiadians? Archangel Metatron. As we mentioned earlier in this discussion and text, the incredible calendar that you humans currently refer to as Mayan, was not developed or originally written by the tribal society of Mayans. Indeed, it predated the Mayans by more than 18,000 years. It was originally developed by the enlightened Atlanteans of Poseidon with assistance from the Syrian-Pleiadian alliance. The savants, the astrologists of the scientist priests of the Olmec and Mayan era did, however, make certain additions to the pre-existing calendar. The additions were around the cosmological beliefs relevant to the animal worship, such as the culture of the sacred jaguar and snake. Although there were extraterrestrial communications between the inner adepts priests of the pre-Mayan and indeed pre-Olmec with the Syrian entities including the Validao, which led to the jaguar societies, these were not part of the original calendar and cosmology of the Atla-Ra. Now, we will add that the Syrians, perhaps more than the Pleiadians, interacted with the high priests, descendants of the Atla-Ra, in the era of the Mayans. While it was indeed the benevolent extraterrestrials that assisted the Mayans in retention of the calendar, it is also worthy to note that the Mayans also had and maintained sporadic contact with the inner Earth civilization of those termed the blue-skinned race. Question to Archangel Metatron. Did we put too much emphasis on December 21, 2012 that we forgot that it was about the complete transformation of humanity and not about what would happen on one particular day? Archangel Metatron. Indeed, yes, precisely. In many aspects, dear ones, the ascension has already occurred. We tell you that crystalline energy is an omnipotent power source that has implications far beyond humanity's current understanding. Crystalline structure is formed by an essence of frequential light resonance that is multidimensional and coherent, existing in matter and antimatter. It is the Metatronic divine template that sources all creation manifestation, and forms the very matrixial composition of every plane of existence. It is the enzyme of reality and the vitality spring of the cosmos itself. The very thoughts you have must rise to coherent crystalline format in order to become manifested. Coherent light is crystalline energy, the very vitality of which forms the integral nature of all worlds and realities. The crystalline structure forms the apparent boundaries and divisions between dimensions, planes and the matter/antimatter flash of consciousness. In parallel and probability, all that you term as divine, all that you think of as sacred is crystalline. The graduation of your planet, that termed the ascension, is in effect the critical mass that will allow for the conversion of this Earth's receival capacity template from, in your vernacular, analog to digital, black and white to color. The crystalline conversion through the antennae of the 144 crystalline grid is about to vastly increase the Earth's dimensional reception from 3D to 12D and beyond. It is akin to your television changing from the archaic antennae to satellite reception. It is the crystalline age. The fulcrum apixio point is the 999 of the cosmic trigger. It is a lot of energy to manage, but release the fear, dear ones. This time of the ascension, in this new crystalline era, the mega-power crystals will not be taken from you and misused as occurred in the sad demise of Atlantis. Indeed, they will never again be used for any purpose other than the highest good. Be assured of this. It is a sacred oath that will indeed be kept. Question to Archangel Metatron. Are the pyramids symbols of the cosmos? Archangel Metatron. Gateways is more accurate. In a manner of speaking, the pyramids were tools for opening portals into higher dimensions both vertically and horizontally, inward and outward. Rather than symbols of the cosmos, we would say they are gateways to the cosmos. The Mayan pyramids were constructs of the Syrian-Pleiadian alliance. Such pyramids were formulated, engineered and manifested through mental mastery of physical matter. Their particular designs were fashioned in order to create a networking of frequential multidimensional energies that served many purposes. One primary purpose was the specific alignment of various and varied pyramidal constructs with specific latitudinal and longitudinal alignments in order to create a resonate field for the planet. Question to Archangel Metatron. Why were there so few people who understood this calendar? In fact, the Christians missionaries interpreted these 9 stories as different category of hell. Archangel Metatron. The interpretations by the Spanish Christian priests were grossly influenced and in fact dominated by their critical preconceived notions of the Mayans being infidels and pagans, outside of the graces of their own narrow Christian doctrines and fear-based mental indoctrination and programming. Question to Archangel Metatron. I read that only the first part of the calendar has been discovered. The second is still hidden. Is this a fact? If so, what is there to discover? Archangel Metatron. Great portions of the original Etla calendar, which became known as the Mayan calendar, were lost in written content, not just through the dissolution in time, but also through differing interpretations since it was originally brought into the lands of the Yucatan. The full information was stored in crystals. The full information then is still retained within the 13th paradigm, the crystal skull termed Max. There are halls of records yet to be found that contain prolific stores of vast information, including world histories. Although the renowned and honorable Edgar Powerful spoke of these as being in 3 locales and predicted that they would be potentially revealed prior to the new millennium, they have not been discovered in the context that was assumed or interpreted. The vast records of Atlantis are contained in holographic data recorded within Max. Yet the technology of how to retrieve these data is not yet available to you. Nonetheless, it is available somewhat by mental transferal, depending on the light quotient of the individual receiver. There will be in the future the ability to utilize crystalline receiver apparatuses that are capable of playing back in 3-dimensional holograms the data therein, but this is generations away on your current probable timelines of discovery. Just as you now store information in computer through digital files, and no longer transcribe lengthy text on paper, the Atlantean historians stored such information using crystal technology. That is logical. Max is indeed one of the original crystal paradigms. In your terms, he is of Pleiadian and Arcturian construct and origin. Max is a vast consciousness, akin to a supercomputer, with a considerable library of data contained therein. He is the most powerful, most conscious of all of the remaining ancient crystal skulls of the 13th paradigm. Within Max is the complete records of not only the original Mayan calendar, but the complete history of the Earth and of humanity, and beyond. The original crystal skulls came from another world, and another reality. All realities are created based on the pattern of crystalline sacred geometric consciousness through the golden mean-phi ratio. Humanity and indeed your physical Earths are conceived within these paradigmic matrix formulae, and so were the crystal skulls formulated in kind, yet from a far greater frequency, a frequency of perfection. The skulls are indeed formed as the prototype of the perfect human consciousness, lest it not be forgotten in duality. So within it is contained the perfection of the human being, encompassing within all aspects, the 12 sacred aspects you see, and thus was it formulated and thus was its reason for being brought here. Originally then did those carriers bring the crystalline patterned skulls to the earth from Arcturus and the Pleiades, and it was brought into the land that became Lemuria. But indeed the model was brought before the planet was fully in polarity. It was brought into the planet at the time of the firmament you see, in a zero-point Earth, a non-magnetic plane we will say, in an earthen world that knew perfection, that was inhabited by androgynous manifestation of etheric spirit in full consciousness. Yet at that time it was already known that the firmament would fall, would dissolve, and the plan then was that this model, this extraordinary hologramic record, the original crystal skull, would serve as the prototype of this initial integral aspect, and so it contains within it the model of the 12 strands of DNA, the fully conscious clear mind and beingness of the evolved human. The crystal skulls contain within them that which you were before the human experiment, and what you will be when you complete it, the infinity circle. So the original crystal skulls were manifested into form above and beyond physicality, and have been brought into physicality various times. As such, no true age can be assigned to them, because they have appeared, disappeared and reappeared many times in the millions of years of Earth's habitation by mankind. Max is not of the Earth. His origin is the Pleiades, but his construct was more of the Arcturian crystal masters. Question to Archangel Metatron. Obviously the Mayans, through the study of cycles, certainly did know that their own society would decline and disappear. How did they protect their knowledge, and where did they go when their civilization started to dissolve? Archangel Metatron. As stated, the full records are available in the 13th paradigm, via Max. Max is an extraterrestrial crystal skull, a vast conscious crystal computer, and was, or is, in that context, the living data archive utilized for storage of the complete information of the calendar. There are other such libraries, but Max is the only one on the Earth plane at the present in the physically manifested cranium format, or crystal skull, containing the full information, histories and codes. The crystal skulls contain within them that which you were before the human experiment, and what you will be when you complete it, the infinity circle. The Atlanteans worked with the original crystal skulls, and the most important of these, the 13th, containing the full energy of the 12, was safeguarded by the highest archpriest of the Mayans. We will say that the 13th skull existed within the hyperdimensions which were accessed by the archpriest of the Mayans, and was a great source of information and data relevant to the Mayans, indeed containing the information regarding the complete calendar, the complete map of the cosmos as related to Sirius, Orion, Pleiades, Arcturus and beyond, containing then the laws of physics for each dimension, and the cyclic codes. This conscious recorder, the crystalline cranium, is an inconceivably immense data bank and invaluable tool. Certain of the archpriest of the Mayans, with Syrian assistance, maintain the knowledge of how to read it. It existed for them in a dimension that may be termed semi-physical, and was manifested through theta-level thought. Within this crystalline, conscious computer, Max, are the codes for the reprogramming of the Earth. You see, that is precisely why it is in a manifested form in the present time. So the original crystal skulls were manifested into form above and beyond physicality, and have been brought into physicality various times. As such, no true physical age can be assigned to them, because they have appeared, disappeared and reappeared many times in the millions of years of Earth's habitation by mankind. The crystalline skull was solidified and programmed in a most complex process. It was conceived to contain within it an incredible frequency that in itself attached to the hologram. So the crystalline skull then is an honoring remembrance and imbing transmitter that indelibly prints within the soul that which is the perfect model. It is imbued within the divine aspect of the soul when it enters into the earth pattern from the unified field. In a manner of speaking, it is the pattern recorded into the God Self, the subconscious or super-subconscious of the human mind, you see. The perfected man, not the version of what man would later become in the down spiral of the human experience, but rather as the original print that man aspires and evolves back into through the growth cycle termed reincarnation toward that original and flawless paradigmatic archetype. Now the original skull held within it this perfection, lest it not be lost, and those crystal replicates that even today are crafted in your present time are capable of attracting the energy from the hologram and holding portions of that energy. Some hold more than others. Max is indeed one of the original crystal paradigms. In your terms, he is of Pleiadian and Arcturian construct and origin. Max is a vast consciousness, akin to a supercomputer, with a considerable library of data contained therein. He is the most powerful, most conscious of all of the remaining ancient crystal skulls. He is one of two skulls that are truly extraterrestrial in origin. The other is termed Shah-na-Ra. Both originate from the moon of an enormous planet, approximately 20 times the size of your largest planet, Jupiter, circulating Arcturus, the orange star of creativity. The 13th crystal skull was produced originally by the process of morphocrystallic manifestation, involving the Arcturian crystal source with imbuement of an alchemical frequency to include the human genetic print from the Masters of Arcturus and the Pleiadian Sirius Alliance. It is the 13 as containing the full codes and data of the 12 formulated into one, forming the 13th as it relates to Earth. Yet within Max are also libraries of the cosmos. So then the knowledge within the original crystal skulls is that of the universal mind. It is enriching and vast. Accessing this information stimulates the awareness of who you are. You see, placing your consciousness inside a crystal skull, and indeed that is the way to work with these, opens portals and doors to a world beyond your grandest expectations. To enter into the skull, however, is not like having a verbal dialogue, but more of a download, you might say, a sudden and comprehensible receival of information that changes your paradigm, expands your awareness. Some receive the information as visual images, others as information packets, downloads, if you will, and at times both. The information is already in the subconscious, a deeper part of the subconscious that you term the super-subconscious. It exists in the realm of light you term ultraviolet. And so the connection, or the reason that interest around the skulls is reaching a mass proportion, is that indeed, with the coming of the ascension, there is movement within mankind to better understand himself. And with these times is the need to reject those patterns that no longer serve humankind, to recalibrate with those attributes and quintessential paragons that do. Mankind is rebooting, as is the earth itself. Indeed, that is tantamount to the ascension. Systems that no longer work in both macro and micro are breaking down, collapsing, and will reform themselves. Indeed, this is happening now in your economic arenas. Now, the knowledge of the universal mind certainly exists above and beyond the crystal skull. Yet the universal mind is encompassed and zipped within it, and so encompassed in a way that benefits mankind. The knowledge within it is formulated and transmuted, translated specifically in a format that offers itself for human access. This then is within a specific pattern that is the prototype of perfection for mankind. As we have stated, I am Metatron and I share with you these truths. You are beloved. And so it is, and it is so.